Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Knowledgeable Nurse. Today, I have the amazing Ruth. I am going to be interviewing her today because, honey, let me tell you, this lady is multi-talented, okay? She got so many tricks in her bag, honey. I'm just going to let her speak on it. So, Ruth, tell us about you.
So I am a former pediatric ICU nurse. So recently I just transitioned into becoming a pediatric nurse practitioner. So starting my journey, so I've been a nurse now for going on, so August will be, or actually August now, so I'll be hitting my 7th year as a nurse. And then I started my journey, and when I started, I always knew that I wanted to become a nurse practitioner. So it's always been just like a matter of time of like, like when should I go back to school? Do I have enough experience as a nurse? And then being in nursing school and starting as a nurse, I always give myself, I'm like, like 2 years. Like I'll hit my 2-year mark and then I'm like, okay, I'll go to grad school after 2 years. So, being a nurse, them 2 years, they go by like this.
Exactly.
They go by like this.
They really do.
And I'm like, dang, I'm like, do I want to go back to school already? Then I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll give myself another year. And the reason I didn't want to give myself too much time with going back to grad school was because I didn't want to be comfortable being a bedside nurse and then forgetting about the fact that I wanted to go back to grad school. So where I was working, there was actually a lot of nurses. They actually ended up leaving the job and then they started travel nursing. And then for those that know me, and then with my Instagram name, the Traveling Truth.
Yes, honey.
Y'all
catchy.
knew that I love to travel.
Yes.
And I was always going on vacation, new nurse money.
Yes.
I don't know how to new nurse money. I don't know how to act, going on vacation. And then I was like, travel nursing. I was like, wait, it's like you guys are on vacation, but y'all are getting paid to be on vacation. So I had friends that went to California. I had friends that went to Hawaii. And I was like maybe I can do that too. And it was still hard because like I'm like, man, like I want to go back to grad school too. Yeah. I'm like, do I leave my current job, do travel nursing, come back, go to grad school? So it was just a lot to think through. And then when I looked into an online program, I'm like, well, I could be anywhere. Yeah, I could be anywhere and do my online program. So I applied to grad school, I got in, and then I was like, man, like I don't see myself being in the same hospital for the next 3 years. And then I'm the type of person, I don't like to be comfortable, like especially in the job. So, working at the bedside, there's so much you can do. You can be a charge nurse, you can be a part of this committee, that committee. But my thing is like once you it's a great thing to be involved in the unit, but for me, once I knew I was attached and it was like waist deep in like this committee, that committee, I knew it would be hard for me to leave. So I was like, let me entertain travel nursing. So here I am. I'm like, okay, step 1, apply for your license. Step 2, apply for jobs. And with travel nursing, you get your job like this. So then, I applied for grad school. So 2016, it was maybe around like May or June. I knew by June that I got in. And then I applied for my first travel nurse contract. It was going to start October of 2016. Okay. I got the job, and that's when it hit. I was like, all right, this is real. I gotta give my job my 2 weeks. Yes. And that was the hard part because I'm like, wow, I have something, something comfortable, something that's permanent. It's a great hospital that I was working for, just to leave. So it was hard, but then it was also exciting that, I could start this travel nurse journey And the plus is that with travel nursing, you, depending on where you work, especially if you have a specialty, you can make double or triple than what you were making as a staff nurse in your current hospital. So they always pay travel nurses way more because, you know, there's a need for you that quick.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, with the money that I'm going to make with the money I'm going to make for travel nursing, I was going to use that money to pay for my grad program. Because y'all know, nursing, especially if you went to a 4-year university, them loans they crazy.
Yes, they are.
And the school that I went to, it was expensive. So I was like, yeah, I ain't pulling out any more loans. So I was able to do travel nursing going on 4 years now. And then I finished my program in 3 years and 3 months. And I paid the whole program cash with my travel nursing money. So for those who want to do travel nursing, be smart about your money because the money's going to roll in, but be smart about what you're going to do with the money because the money's going to come in. It's going to come in fast. So have a plan with what you want to do with the money. So then, so obviously so my program was an online program, but then you have to do clinicals, which are in person. So then I had to think about, all right, where am I going to be for my clinicals? So, you know, for those of you who want to do online programs, the thing is have your connections early with your preceptors.
Good tip.
Because that's what's going to hold you up in the program because the school is not going to help you find a preceptor.
That's real.
Yeah.
So true. That is.
They will not, unless you really can't find somebody, then they might find somebody for you, but it may not be where you want to be.
Exactly.
It may not be where you want to be. So I came home. So home is New Jersey. So I was in California at this time. So I did travel nursing in Texas. I did travel nursing in California. And during those 2 times, I was just doing like my prerequisite classes, like anatomy, the pathos, the research classes. And then I came back to New Jersey I had a total of 6 clinicals to do, so 1.5 years worth. So my first 2, I came back to Jersey. And then since I did travel nursing in Texas and California, I had connections in Texas. I had connections in Cali. And the thing about travel nursing, like use that experience so you can network. Because you never know. Never know when you're going to need those connections again. And what I can say is that I've made so many connections with travel nursing that has helped me, you know, to this point today. So I was like, all right. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm in Jersey for 6 months. You know, I was itching to, you know, continue travel nursing somewhere else. And boom, I went back to Texas. I had a connection via travel nursing with a preceptor out in Texas. So I did actually 2 rotations out there and actually fell in love with Texas thinking, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I wouldn't mind living here. So I really tried hard to stay out there in Texas. But, you know, at the end of the day, God got the final say.
Exactly.
And you have to move, you know, like the thing about moving so much with travel nursing, my main thing is like, I always fell back on God and praying. And I always went where I felt that, you know, where God purposely, you know, me in that place. So then I ended up coming back home again, back to New Jersey for my last 2 rotations, my last 2 clinical rotations. And then at that point I was just doing per diem, but then I still wanted to work a little bit more and I wanted to make some more money. So then I picked up a travel contract that was in North Jersey. And then when I was there, so with travel nursing, your contracts are 13 weeks. And then if the hospital still has a need, you can always extend. So you can extend for like 6 weeks, you can extend for 8 weeks, another 13 weeks, whatever you want. So I ended up extending. And then through that, so at this point, I'm finishing my NP program. And then a few people that I worked with, they were aware that I was in an NP program. And they were like, it's like, we've actually been looking for a nurse practitioner for the past 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and the whole time I've been travel nursing, it has always been PICU, which is pediatric ICU. It's always been that. And then what I went to school for my master's was, so I stayed in pediatrics, but then I concentrated in primary care. I concentrated in acute care. So primary care is outpatient, acute care is inpatient. So I had the option to work in the hospital or at a primary care office. Yeah. So when I was doing my travel contract, it was like, oh, we've actually been looking for a nurse practitioner. It's like, oh, you should apply. And I'm like, I just started here. I was like, let me feel out the hospital. Let me see how I like it, because being a travel nurse, you don't got any commitments with the hospital. You got none. You go to work for 13 weeks. You mind your business.
Keep it moving.
You keep it moving. If you like the people, you like them. If you don't worry about it, because it's only 13 weeks.
Yeah.
Them 13 weeks, they go by. Yep. Them 13 weeks, they go by so fast. And you're like, you know what? There's nothing that you can't do in 13 weeks. So now I'm going to be transitioning back to the fact that I now have to be permanent staff again. And being a travel nurse, you get really, really, really caught up with like, you know what? This is just temporary. I'm just going to bounce here, go to the next place, bounce here, go to the next place. Now, going back, being permanent staff, now you have to include like the politics of the hospital, how the hospital is run, all of that stuff I have to, take into account. So I was like, you know what, let me feel out the hospital. Let me like how the hospital is run. So I applied for that position. And even as I applied for that position, I was still applying elsewhere because, you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. Yes. And you want to have options.
Yes.
You definitely, you want to have options. So I applied, got the position, and I'm just like, if I never took this travel contract, I would have never seen this NP position. And the crazy thing is that this NP position was never on the hospital's HR portal page or their careers page. It wasn't on there.
Position, yes.
Yeah. So it was an internal position, and it kind of gives me a level up, because now at this point when I applied, the nurses knew who I was. Working in the pediatric ICU, you work very, very close with the ICU intensivists. So they knew who I was. They knew my work ethic as a nurse. So I applied for that position. So my contract ended the end of June. And then now I'm at the point where I'm now transitioning into my NP career. But beware for those who go the NP routes. You know how you become a nurse? You just get that job. The job. Yes. Job is like this. They're like, oh, you got the job. When can you start?
Yeah.
So now as a nurse practitioner, now you're another level up. You're now a provider.
Yes.
And now doing background checks as they would a doctor. So the same way they do background checks on a doctor, they make sure that the school that you went to was, it's an accredited school. They want to make sure that you took the appropriate courses, you took the appropriate exams so you can work in that hospital. So that process alone takes 3 months. You have to apply for multiple licenses. And of course, this is COVID. You got to sprinkle in all the delays of COVID. So now as I'm waiting for my NP start to date, the good thing is about being a travel nurse is that you never have to have a lull of period without working. If you don't want to work, cool. Definitely set yourself up to save. You don't have to work 12 months out the year. I know a lot of people who only work half the year, but you make enough money where you can save and you can go 2 to 3 months without working. So the good thing is for me, I have options. If I want to, as I wait for this NP position to start, if I want to, you know what? I can, hop on a plane, take a drive down, go to another state, and I can pick up another contract, still make money before I start my NP position. And the good thing about travel nursing as well, you know, your contracts are typically 13 weeks, but if you want some of them, you could be 6 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, or they can be 13 weeks. And you can pretty much negotiate what you want. You can negotiate how long you want your contract to be, how much you want to get paid. Because essentially, not that you're working for yourself, but essentially you kind of are.
Yeah.
You're that voice for yourself to be like, no, like I want more. I want more money. You know your skills. You know what you're worth. At the end of the day, you know what you're worth, and you don't have to just accept any pay package that they're going to give you. So that's been my journey leading up to being a nurse practitioner. So I'm excited. This is going to be a whole new journey for me, but I'm excited. I'm ready. I feel as though the past 7.5 years has given me more than enough experience to prepare myself to become a nurse practitioner.
Yes. Oh, that is great. And I want to go back into you being a pediatric nurse, especially in the pediatric ICU. What made you go into that specialty in nursing?
So being in clinical, so for those who are in nursing school, or for people who aren't nurses or they're not familiar with it. So in nursing school, they pretty much take you through all the specialties within nursing. So you got regular adult care, you have geriatrics, you have pediatrics, you have maternity, you have psychology. Am I missing anything?
You talked about med-surg, yeah, you said every psych.
Yeah, med-surg.
Like, yep.
And I always knew that I either wanted maternity or peds, but I was always like, before I even went to nursing, I was like, I want to become a midwife. I was like, I want to become a midwife. I want to become a midwife. And then I finally did my maternity rotation. And I mean, maternity, it can get busy, but then when it's not busy, you're kind of just, you're waiting. You're waiting for your patient to deliver, or pretty much, yeah, you're waiting for your patient to deliver, unless you're working like postpartum or prepartum. So then I did my peds rotation, and I really, really, really liked my peds rotation. And then the undergrad school that I went to, so it was a 5-year nursing program, but then I had 3 co-op opportunities. So there were 3 like intern like months. Each one was 6 months. And then my last 2, I was actually working at a children's hospital. And then the first one, I was on a regular med-surg peds floor. And then my last one, the third one, was in the pediatric ICU. And then, so I liked peds. I liked peds. It was med-surg. But then I was always like itching for more. I was like, man, I want to see more. I want to see more. And then I would always stop the pediatric ICU and see all the diagnoses that were there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So then my last co-op, it was in a pediatric ICU. And for those who don't know, like, that's the sickest. So the sickest of the sickest kids, they go to the ICU. And then the children's hospital that I was working at, it was one of the top children's hospitals. So we had a lot of kids that actually like flew into us, or they came via ambulance, because if another children's hospital couldn't care for that patient, they came to us for higher acuity of care. And when I was there as a student, I would just look at the nurses, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, these nurses are not only taking care of the patient who's probably on the ventilator, they're taking care of the patient, they're monitoring all the pumps that the patient's on. It could be anywhere from like 6 to like 15 pumps. If the patient's on dialysis, they're monitoring that. They're monitoring the medications that they're getting, the monitor. And I was just in awe that one person could wrap their head around the whole entire room, and you knew exactly what was going on in that room. And I just kept looking at the nurses, and I was like, wow, like I want to be that nurse. So then once I was working there at my third co-op, then I stayed there as a nurse tech as I finished my undergraduate degree. And then that's another connection. I slid in as an RN. And then the key thing that I want to say is make your connections. Like, it does not have to be awkward. It's just a matter of talking to, like, during your clinicals, talking to a nurse, telling them that you're interested. If you happen to see the nurse manager, pull the nurse manager aside, like, hey, I'm such and such. I'm actually interested in this specialty. Will you guys be hiring in the next, like, tell them, like, when your graduation date is.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. That's all it takes, is having that conversation, because when these managers get applicants, they get hundreds of applicants. So you kind of want to set yourself, make yourself, set yourself aside and apart. So, so they know who you are when the application comes through. So from that point, I fell in love with peds, and I fell in love with pediatric ICU. And, in nursing, it's actually really easy to change between specialties, but I never had the desire to switch to another specialty. I always loved PICU, because there's so much that you can learn, and you're always learning on a daily basis. So for the past 7 years, I've been doing pediatric ICU.
That is so interesting. It's so interesting. And it's just crazy to me, Ruth, because I remember back in the day, we were like, yeah, we're going to be nurses. We're going to do this. And I am just so, like, happy for you. I'm just so proud of you, and seeing what you're doing. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Thank you.
So the one thing I do want to ask is, as a travel nurse, how did you deal with, like, the changes and, like, being home? Did you deal with being homesick? And, like, how did you balance just adjusting to a new environment every 13 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever your schedule was?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because travel nursing is all about change. Thing is, with travel nursing, nursing, like, nursing is nursing for the most part. Like, the care that the patient is receiving, eventually it becomes the same type of care, but the tasks and the interventions that you take to actually get to that care, it might be different. So the steps you take to get to that endpoint, it might be different. So change was everywhere. So change, you're changing your location. You're on a new unit. You're with people who you don't know. You have coworkers who you don't know, managers who you don't know. You're in a hospital. You don't know how to get around. You gotta, accept the change. You have to embrace the change. But my thing, like how I mentioned before, I was like, I'm a type of person where, like, I didn't really like being comfortable, and I actually do embrace change. But the thing is, with being a travel nurse, you got to have an open mind for change. Like, you can't be on the unit and be like, well, at such and such hospital, we did it like this. They're going to be like, well, homegirl, you working out, right? Right. You at my hospital. This is how
I guess.
So unless it's not putting your license on the line, you're going to do it how that person does it. And then if it is, then you're like, no. If it's putting your license on the line, definitely no. You speak up for yourself. As a travel nurse, girl, a lot of hospitals, they will throw you under the bus. Like, that has never happened to me, thank God. But I always put it in the back of my mind that they're not gonna look out for you. So, always ask questions. Regardless, you get 3 days of orientation, and after that, be like, bye.
That's it. No, like, if I've never been here, you're only giving me 3 days.
3 days, maybe 4, but 3 days is common.
I guess you gotta know that you know what you're doing. Like,
what you're doing. Yeah. So before you become a travel nurse, make sure you have your experience, because the diagnoses you're going to see are going to be the same.
True.
But like I said, the interventions you take to get to caring those patients, it's different. So you have to be open to, be very receptive to how hospitals do certain things. And like I said, ask questions, keep asking questions. And one thing that I loved about travel nursing, and, like, this is going to tie in, you're like, was I ever homesick? I don't think I ever got to a point where I was truly, like, homesick to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go home. Like, yeah, I definitely miss my family, but I mean, the good thing now, you have so much technology. So, I'd be calling them all the time. I actually had a lot of friends who would come out and visit me. But my main thing is, like, if you are homesick, I would say, just have that person that you can call, whether it's like a close friend, your parent, sibling. And then when it comes to the hospital, one thing that I did I always went in with the mindset that I never went in thinking I was going to make friends. Never. And then the good thing is, normally when you're traveling, there's probably going to be another traveler with you. So it's like a unknown type of language where if you see another traveler, we kind of flock with each other anyway, because we know we're in the same position. We don't know anyone out there, so they usually become your first, I don't want to say friend, but the first person that you're going to hang out with outside of work. And I think the main thing is trying to find someone that you can hang with outside of work. So I always became like part of like meetups, or what else did I do? I would go to like parks, museums, and if I ended up running into someone, just striking up a conversation, like if it felt safe. But what I would say is that travel nursing is not cut for everybody. I think you need to have that open like mindset and that open personality, because once you do it, I always tell people, I said, once you do it, you will love it, and you're not going to want to go back to staff. Like it's just you just feel free. You feel like a bird, and you just just feel free. Like I love it.
What are some tips you have for new nurses or people considering nursing who want to try traveling or peds or even becoming an MP? Like, what are some tips you have for those individuals?
All right, so that's a good question. So the key thing with diving in and getting to where you want to go is networking. So network. Yes. So whether you are in nursing school, whether you are approaching towards graduation, whether you are on the job, it's so important to just make sure that you have a good pool of people that you can always fall back on. Yep. So it's key to to get to know people, get their contact, and even if you're not going to talk to them right then and there, you can use them in the future. And a big thing is that when you're in nursing school, getting ready to dive in and start a job as a nurse, even though you're in nursing school and doing clinicals, talk to that nurse who's precepting you. Like obviously, they're busy, they're charting. You're not going to want to, be all up in their ear the whole time. But like if there's downtime, if you're, especially interested in that floor, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with, telling them, hey, I'm interested. Are you guys hiring? Because in 3 months, I'm going to be graduating. And if you happen to see the manager and the manager doesn't look like she's busy, she's walking down the hallway, there's nothing wrong with stopping them. And actually, they'll probably be surprised and they'll be like, oh, wow, like she is actually interested. And they're going to want to write your name down. They're going to want to get your contact information and boom. And your application, right. And when your application comes through, they're already going to know your name and they're already going to know which file they can pull. And one thing for me that I've learned in my traveling nursing journey is that I've come across so many people, and there are people who I still keep in contact to this day where, they've reached out to me asking me certain questions, or I've been able to reach out to them. And I've used, like I've mentioned before, I've used some people that I've came across. They helped me find preceptors. They helped me find maybe, or like, let's say if I had a friend who was like looking for a job at some, a certain place, I can be like, oh, well, I know, such and such who works here. So it may not be a contact that I need for myself, but it could be a contact where I can help someone else. And and then, you can also relate, Nadej, being in grad school, finding a preceptor.
Honey,
it ain't easy.
Ooh, and like I live in Pennsylvania, and good thing I had my Jersey license because I did all my precepting in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So nursing, especially, BSN was very hard. Let's not even play. BSN was very hard, but MSN is hard in a different way because they expect you to know what you know, and you're going to have to find what you need by yourself. Nobody's going to help you find anything. You have to be on your last resort, and sometimes they're like, okay, well, sorry, you need to find it yourself. This recommendation, but they don't have to take you on as a student. They don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So
and at the day, and at the end of the day, you're an adult. They're going to treat you like an adult, and if they told you to complete X, Y, and Z, they're going to expect you to complete X, Y, and Z. And what I did when I was in grad school looking for preceptors, you know who I reached out to? Like my first two were nurses that I worked with on my first unit as a nurse. I knew that they went to grad school, they became NPs. And while I was in grad school, you know, they were finishing off like year 1, year 2, year 3 being an NP. And when it was time for me to start my clinicals, boom, who did I reach out to? Them.
Yes.
They already knew me. And, you know, it's kind of like you're helping out a friend, you're helping out an old coworker. So it just makes it that much easier when you have when you have those connections, and it can make getting to that next step a whole lot easier because you know that person.
Amazing. That's true. And it's not what you know, it's who you know, especially
who you know. Yes. And yeah. And some people are like, oh, like, you know, I have like these skills, I got these grades in undergrad. Like, yeah, so do those other 100 applicants. You need to make yourself stand apart. So
exactly. So personality is everything. Not just personality, but just a professionalism. You just have to, if you got it, you got it, and be confident but not cocky.
Yes. Yeah.
Be confident in your skills. If you know it, you know it. But don't like, well, I know this, and no, it's not.
No. Always be teachable. And that's what other nurses are gonna like to see you. Always be teachable.
Yes.
You know, it's you can know your stuff. They want you to know your stuff, but at the same time, you know, if you're coming off as if you know everything, you don't leave them the opportunity to teach you.
Yes, that's real. That's real. So Ruth, where can the audience find you? Where can they follow you? Tell us something, please.
Oh, my Instagram handle. No. But you guys can follow me on my Instagram page. So it's the.traveling.truth.
And I'll make sure I put that in our description box too, just so in case you didn't catch that.
So it has my name tied in there, Ruth, but it's basically, which I do need to do a better job at putting content out there. Everything may not be what pictures say. So if you have any questions about, you know, the truth, the honest truth behind travel nursing, the honest truth behind leisurely traveling, you know, hit me up. Or if you want to have a non-nursing related question, whatever it may be, whatever you find interest in my page, hit me up.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ruth. And you guys will be seeing her again on this channel. We're going to be talking about different topics. So I'm not going to put it all out there because I'm not trying to spoil anything. I like to surprise you guys. So you will be seeing Ruth again, okay? So thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to my journey as a nurse and becoming a nurse practitioner. Make sure you guys tune in to next week's episode and also subscribe and like to the Knowledgeable Nurse. You will not want to miss out on all the information she has for you guys.